agenda's a little messed up, but I am with us now. Okay, so item number 4. Item number 4 is a motion to renew prior failed motion to approve second reading and adoption of an ordinance increasing council member compensation, and also approve a second reading and adoption of an ordinance increasing council member compensation. Presentation by Colin, attorney for the city.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We are back discussing council compensation. As I've said before, I hesitate to use compensation. As a council member, you took the job to serve the public, and while nobody takes this position to make money, it shouldn't be a position that actually drains money. With the amount of time that is spent, meetings, readings, the time you spent before reading the agenda, and the amount of money you put into travel and all the other things, you are going out of pocket. There was an estimate done that showed that council members do about 30 hours per week of quote volunteer time being a city council member. So it is an expensive task. It's a lengthy task, and the thought from staff was council should give itself an increase. Under old law, cities up to 50,000 could get a salary of $500 a month. Benefits were separate from that. We have had an ordinance since at least 1997, probably before, but as far as we can go back as 1997, showing that the city has had the same compensation of $500, except in 1997, the council also had benefits. After the great financial crisis, the council got rid of its benefits, so you today are making less on a nominal basis than what they were making in 1997, nominal meaning not counting inflation. A new law was passed that allows cities between 50,000 and 75,000 persons to receive a salary of up to $1,600 per month. Staff did recommend that council increase its salary to $1,600 on September the 3rd. The council didn't want to increase its salary that high. Instead, council looked at inflation. It looked at what other cities were paying their council members, which for our neighboring cities is around $3,000 plus, and decided that $1,200 was a more reasonable number. So the council adopted a first read of an ordinance adjusting compensation to $1,200. When it came back for a second read, council decided that it didn't want to pass a second read. After the second read, I received 2 independent and separate inquiries asking about reconsideration, so I took the initiative, given time constraints, to go ahead and put on a motion to renew, and if the motion to renew passes, a second read on the actual ordinance. So looking at renewing a motion, parliamentary rules generally allow councils or legislative bodies to renew motions at a later meeting. You just have to make sure that you haven't passed a point of no return. In this case, the council hasn't. Looking to the Fountain Valley Municipal Code, it says that Robert's Rules of Order is a non-binding guide. Under Roberts, a council member may reintroduce a defeated motion at a later meeting. This is called renewing the motion. This is the first action that's listed on the agenda. If any council member wants to make a motion, it would be seconded. The council would take a vote. If that motion passes, then the council can go ahead and reconsider the second read of the ordinance that has the $1,200 compensation. That is the second item that's listed on the agenda. And I'm available for any questions.
I don't think we have any questions up here. We've gone over this. One thing that we have agreed to do is we'll take, after hearing public comments, we're going to vote on the first item electronically. The second item we cannot electronically, so we're going to do a roll call vote. And I've already talked to the city clerk and council, and everybody's agreed that's okay. So with that, let's go ahead and call, unless anybody wants to make a comment. Not seeing any. Let's call up the speakers, please.
Anna Katsuki.
Welcome, Anna.
Thank you. Thank you to the City Council members for allowing me to speak on this issue. The stipend issue comes up again. I do not have a problem with an increase of $100 or $200 a month, but I do not agree with an increase of $700 or 140% increase. To state that there has not been a raise in 27 years, it appears that past City Council members viewed their participation as community service. I thank them for that. To compare Fountain Valley with Costa Mesa and Santa Ana, one city is double our size in population and land, and the other is over 4 times larger. For me, the comparison is a weak one. Simply being unhappy with an outcome and hoping for something different is not a reason to reconsider a vote. I am very uncomfortable with the revote. What happened between last meeting and this one? Call me cynical, but what occurred to have someone now change their vote? What precedence does this set? Whoever changes their vote tonight did not do their due diligence in this matter. I don't believe the facts changed, so what did? And how now you want to raise? Right now the cost is for 12 months $30,000 a year, and now will go up to $72,000. I am sure there are many things needed in this city that would use the extra $42,000, like a crossing guard. But I don't have a problem with an increase. I just think it needs to be like 100 or 200, and then every year if you feel that you need to up the stipend. But to go up that much, I do have a problem with. There are some past elections that I personally would also like to have a revote. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna.
Rudy Hubner.
Welcome, Rudy.
Hello, good evening, Mayor and City Council. Again, we find ourselves talking about this issue. And again, I must remind you that the role of council is public service. You're here to serve the community, and you're not here to make money. It's clear that the prevailing sentiment among the community is that they are against an increase of this proportion. And not only are we having this discussion for the fourth time, and even the first time that this item came before council, I felt that this was inappropriate. But now we're going into the territory of not only is this inappropriate, it's inefficient. And I would expect that my council, once a decision has been made, that decision is final and council moves on to other city business. And yet, this keeps coming up time and time again. And then we go back to the Roberts rules, and just the fact that, I'm having buyer's remorse over my vote, that shouldn't be a good enough excuse. And one of the items listed says, maybe if between when the vote was cast and bringing it up again, the facts have changed. Well, this has come up 4 times. That's more than enough time to have reviewed this item in the agenda. And I don't think between when this item was first heard in September and now in mid-October that the facts have changed that much to warrant this discussion. So as it appears, someone clearly has had a change of heart, choosing to put their own personal needs over the needs of the community. I am against this issue, and I hope that you vote against it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Rudy.
Katie Wright.
Katie?
Greetings, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members. We're all somewhat consistent back here. I feel the same dismay as Ms. Hubner and Ms. Katsuki in the flip-flopping, but I don't think it happened now. I think it happened in the previous meeting. I've been following this. My consistent take on it is that you do deserve the raise. My consistent take is that, as Ms. Katsuki said in the previous meeting, she wouldn't have minded a moderate raise and did not describe, I don't think, the exact amount moderate would refer to. But in my opinion, had a moderate raise been considered way back when, and from time to time, a moderate raise considered again, I'm not a financial guru, but there's a thing called compounding interest and various formulas that financial people use to determine. I would almost predict that had moderate raises been allowed along the way, within reason, we would be approaching what would be something like the $1,200 that had been asked for. The first time you did it was pretty positive, and there was the need for a second vote, and the second vote, that's when the votes flip-flopped. So while I agree that it doesn't seem to make sense that we have the vote, another vote, another vote, another vote, it seems odd. If one reads the news articles that covered this situation, it seemed that even the reporter noticed that there was something strange about how it was voted yes and then voted no. I think you deserve it. I think it's long overdue. The records go back 27 years or longer. We don't have the records from beyond that. And you can argue about what the money could be spent on. It could be better spent on this, better spent on that. We have certain raises that are rubber stamped for the higher management people in the city that maybe shouldn't be rubber stamped at the percentages that they are. And frankly, $250,000, and then with regular raises up to around $300,000 within a couple years for one person, it seems kind of excessive to me, based on some other cities don't pay their upper level that high. Am I saying they're not worth the money? No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying, I understand that the budget is doing well at this time. Now, you don't get that by just blowing money foolishly, but there are times when the money should be spent. I want to see young people get in here. I want to see all of these people that keep coming back, not coming back. I want to see absolute term limits, and I want to see a reasonable stipend that a young person can afford to come here and serve. Thank you very much.
All right, any other requests to speak?
Yes, we just have a request on Zoom. Lyle Shepley.
Welcome, Lyle.
There you go.
There we go, I'm unmuted. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, City Council. I wasn't really thinking about this subject until I heard a few people raise it, and I'm not all that concerned about the process. I think it's appropriate to reevaluate things when they need to be reevaluated. And I've heard people on both sides, some of them are suggesting that the entire community is not supportive of compensation for this, and I don't think that can be an accurate statement since you haven't heard from the entire community. This isn't like your service is something you do for your own reasons, but it's not like volunteering at a Girl Scout group. I serve on boards, and I'm not going to spend 100 hours 4 times a year to benefit thousands of shareholders without, having somebody compensate me for my time. This isn't exactly the same thing, but we only get the best people that serve because, number one, you want to serve and you want to give back, but at the same time, your investment of time shouldn't be free. I think that what you should do is evaluate what current market is, and you should get paid what that market is. And I don't think you should feel bad about that or sad about it or disappointed. The city didn't keep up with it over 20 years. Let's get the compensation right. Because beyond this board or this council, future members are going to want to serve, and you really want to appropriately attract the right people. Now, I realize it's not just about money, but it is part of the equation. So I'm very supportive of that process, and as your attorney said, get the right information out there and pay the council fairly. Thank you.
Thank you, Lyle. Any other requests to speak? Not seeing any?
I have no further requests to speak.
Okay, so the first item is a motion to renew a prior failed motion. So does anybody want to do that? And
Sure.
Any comments before we make a motion, if anybody wants to?
Well, I'd like to make comments, but which one do we do appropriately first?
First one we have to do is to decide whether we even bring back the second one. So we have to vote on the first
Sure.
one first.
Okay, so I make a motion to renew the prior failed motion to approve the second reading and adoption of an ordinance increasing council member compensation.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll go ahead and second it.
We have a second by Vice Mayor Bowie. Let's vote.
Part 1 of item 4 passes 4-1.
Okay, so now we've agreed to not council compensation increase, but what we've agreed to is at least talk about council member compensation at this point. So with that, who wants to talk?
I do, if I can.
Councilmember Constantine.
Okay, so a couple of things based on the paperwork, and I think that's a challenge here because not everybody in the audience has read the paperwork. So this was first presented on September 3rd. The second reading was supposed to be September 17th, but we had Councilmember Harper not here. He was at a conference, and so that was continued to October 1st. So it's not been, over and over again. I did prepare a little something. Not all of this is all from before. But anyway, and on the city website, there is the video from the last meeting, which was October 1st, in which we talked about this quite a bit, and I read something, talking about council member, what we do, and a couple of other cities, and it lasted about 15 minutes. So that's on the city's website, which is fountainvalley.gov. You can go to agendas and minutes. You'll look up October 1st. You can see the little icon for the TV. You can go to the timestamp. The matter started at timestamp 42:48, so around 42 minutes in. I spoke starting at 52 minutes. What was mentioned at that time was Costa Mesa and Santa Ana, because we did get from our attorney for the city, as part of our paperwork, and again, it's fully available for the public, whether you're here in person, you're at home, you're on Zoom, whatever, and it did have some other cities listed in their compensation. I did speak about Costa Mesa. They went from $904 a month to $1,492 a month. They also do get still benefits. Santa Ana has a measure on their ballot that the residents will be voting on. Each Santa Ana council member currently has a stipend of $12,000 a year. If Measure HH passes by the Santa Ana voters, they will get compensation of up to $79,000 a year. I didn't say I was for it, against it. I didn't say we should do it. I merely put that out there. I wasn't comparing. I was talking about news of two other cities recently. So with that being said, we have had public comments that have been recent. That's a big jump. I don't mind a small compensation every year. You all have careers. So here's the thing. There's a little bit of a disconnect here. We haven't, and I did on this dais on October 1st, confirm with our attorney for the city, Colin, that it has indeed been longer than 27 years. And Colin said at that time he believes it to be about 30. So I thought I would go with that at this point. And the fact that we used to have benefits. So what's so way off here is that while people are talking moderate compensation increases, there's really a disconnect. And that is in looking at the 30 years that we're talking about. With the $500 a month currently, this $700 a month per council member increase works out to be $23.33 per month per council member. So literally, if you multiply 23.33 times 30, you get the 700. So had there been moderate increases, we certainly wouldn't be sitting here talking about this now. This is not something that's brought up, or that has been brought up for many, many years. Personally, I've been here since 2018, and it hasn't been mentioned. I can't speak for prior councils, because nobody's here from then. So, and according to the attorney for the city and all that we have in the staff report, because we did have a speaker on Zoom, this is just, this is warranted. This does make sense. It does. So personally, I don't understand. And that's it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. At this point, we need a motion.
Okay, so I'll make a motion. Let me find the verbiage.
You can say motion to approve.
Oh, I'm sorry. I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
This is second for the second, right?
Second for the second.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and we're going to do a roll call vote.
Yes.
Mr. City Clerk, please go ahead.
So when I call on a council member, please vote either yes or no. When I call on your name, Councilmember Constantine,
Yes.
Councilmember Harper,
Yes.
Councilmember Canine,
No.
Vice Mayor Bowie,
Yes.
Mayor Grandis.
Well, at this point, it's passed, so it doesn't really matter what I vote at this point.
Oh, come on.
No, I'm just saying, I think I need to explain. So as mentioned, I donate it. It's not something that really affects me, and I think since we have a council majority, I will go in favor of it as well, just to keep the peace and not bring it back.
And
Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment as well. So I have to commend you for voting yes, because like some have said, I think this will leave room for future generations, for those who are talent, and that leave room for them to come and serve. As part of voting yes, I'm going to also donate my stipend to a nonprofit organization that does great work in the city, to follow your leadership.
Well, there we go. Taxpayers are funding nonprofits. That's the bottom line. All right, I think we've gone through this enough. And,
Mr. Mayor, if I can just announce the vote real quick,
Yes.
sorry. Part 2 of item 4, to approve the second reading and adoption of an ordinance increasing council member compensation, passes 4-1.
All right, let's move on to item number 5, the Water Master